All right. Yeah, you can see me on YouTube. I think you use probably YouTube. Yeah, it's on my Facebook. Yeah, my messenger. All right.
That's Hunter.
Yeah. Mr. Angry Man is back. I'm back. That's right. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Nah. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Yeah. Listen. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. United we fall, divided we rise. That's all they ever see when they look in our eyes. I ain't the least bit surprised, and I don't even ask why I study. Looking for love and all we get is despise. They prophet lying, meaning they falsely prophesying. Talking about we really living, but we steadily dying. Tired of mothers crying and fathers silently raging. There's gotta be a way to escape this situation now. Yup. Come on. Verse 2. We search for brighter days to escape the maladies, giving homage to the folks that passed away. I speak life with the words I say, and that's the weapon I use to keep the evil at bay. I don't play when it comes to mine. My rhymes speak of a revolution. This time it's by design, and I'ma drop these deposits. So if you scared, take your ass to the closet. Why? Let me tell you this. Let's go. I got one more verse for you. Get them off of that verse. Listen to me now. Verse 3. I drop gems, representing lugs and Timbs with backpacks. I got props like Black Moon, they want effect like Dons. I'm pouring mic like Nas. I'm the southern playalistic cat that beat them odds. I'm coming out hard. We coming out hard. Yes, sir. Y'all didn't know that I can rock like that. Ha. One time for your mind. Representing for the deuce. That's right. Put it down for the deuce tray. Let's go. It's the Angry Man. Haha. Peace. What is up? What is going on, everybody? What is happening? What is happening? Welcome to the Author's Alley and welcome to Trailblazers Radio. I am your host, Mr. Frederick Beatty. Thank you so very much for tuning into us today. You guys could have been anywhere else, but you guys are right here rocking out with us, and we most definitely appreciate that. So thank you very much in advance for that right now. So first and foremost, we want to thank you all for tuning in and rocking out with us, man. Continue to like and follow us on our various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as Twitter, as well as Linktree, and so many other platforms that we're on. Also, thank you for listening to us on our various audio streaming platforms. So also that, and also thank you for watching us on our YouTube channel, man. We're on the road to 100 subscribers, so I would very much appreciate it if you guys would go to our YouTube channel, which is Trailblazers Radio, on Trailblazers Radio with the Z on YouTube, and watch the video, like the video, and then if you like what you see, then subscribe. Then go ahead and subscribe, but only subscribe if you feel the content is something that you resonate with. So, with that being said, most definitely thank you guys just so very much, and I also want to give a big shout out to my hosts, Coco Fenton, Quinn Jones, Latalia Harris Gooden, and for them making this, for helping me make this what it is currently. And also want to thank you guys, our listeners and our viewers. And also want to give a big shout out to God, because without him, none of this, literally, this doesn't get off the ground. So most definitely want to give all praises and thanks to God. So thank you guys so very much. But now that I got that out the way, man, let's go ahead and just jump. Let's go ahead and get into this, man. So this gentleman right here, I have, doesn't need an introduction, but I'm gonna give it one the best that I know how to give it one. So first off, how did I meet this gentleman? So first and foremost, I met this gentleman. He was being interviewed on Miss Sandra Ruff Jackson's or podcast platform, and I just happened to be on as a listener and viewer, and was in the comments and things of that nature. So afterwards, we talked a little bit about coming onto my platform. Now there was a little hiccups, a little snafus, and some things of that nature, but as you can see, we're here, we're live, and we're in front of you guys. Um, this guy is a wonderful author, a great human being. So without any further ado, man, won't you guys give a warm office alley welcome to my brother, Mr. KT Brown. What's going on, bro? How you do?
Good, good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having
Oh, man, pleasure to have you here, man. Thank you for taking your time out of a Saturday evening um, to be with us tonight, man. I appreciate you.
me. Oh yeah, no problem at all.
So how was your day? How was your day? And matter of fact, how was your week?
My week is the same as always, especially for a teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah, grading,
man.
the end of the school year, a lot of grading.
Oof.
Yeah, and on the process of getting a home. So that's just my life right now.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. I know that I told you what my first question was gonna be, but now I kind of teacher.
Yep.
What grade? What grade level?
I teach on the high school level. So I teach basically 11th, 12th grade, college prep honors, and I teach the dual enrollment students at the community college.
Wow. So you got double duty.
Yeah, pretty much. It's good though, because I came from teaching at the college before I got to the high school.
So is there any difference in that?
Just a slight difference. The college students, you don't have to worry if they don't show back up to class. All you do is for the college that I was at, you had to write like I forgot what you call them things, like referrals, just to indicate the student didn't show up to class, and you would move on. but the but the high school students, you have to make sure they're in class. They take the roll, and then there's certain methods you have to have for each class. Especially for the college prep, because they different than the honors and the college students. You got to give
Man.
them like visuals.
Oh man, you gotta
Slow it
show
down.
them.
Yeah, you got to slow it down for them. So it's just a major adjustment, but I enjoy it. I
Good. So I guess before we jump into everything, I guess the one question I want to, and this is kind of off topic and off subject, really.
Oh yeah.
Um, Seeing some of the stuff that we've seen, the altercations with teachers and students.
Mm.
How important do you think? How important do you feel that it? How important is it to you to to have the to garner the honor and the respect of your students that you teach?
That's a good question. For me, you just have to get their respect by just basically being yourself, being cool with them. Not to the point where you be all buddy buddy or anything like that. You gotta be
Right.
strict.
Of
but
course.
you don't. But you just have to be on their level, and you have to be on their understanding, for the most part. Um, like you got teachers, like this one teacher, she got beat up by a student for taking this little game system, this Nintendo.
Right.
And I was like, man. And then I saw one substitute teacher provoke the fight. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, you know,
Yeah.
you still got to follow protocol at the end of the day, but you can't get to the point where the student is like gets ticked out to the point where they're ready to fight you. There's
That's
limits.
true. There's limits. And I think at the end of the day, you have to be adult about it.
Yeah, you gotta be professional. I
That's
remember my mentor, and I'm gonna use this example as well. My 12th graders, they're very mouthy and they can be disrespectful,
right.
but they know when it's time to get work done, and they know them zeros coming in, they straighten up fast.
They know they're gonna get bad grades.
They know they about to get bad grade. Like, man, let me do Mr. B's work.
Yeah, let me go ahead and straighten up and act right.
Yeah, because the teacher that was observing me, I thought they was gonna jump her because I was telling her because I'm a new teacher in the district, so I told her that I got him out at a certain time because the seniors leave early to go to lunch,
Right.
and it was to the point where she literally tried to take she didn't try to take over the class. She tried to control the students doing it the old school way. Um, but them boys literally ran over her. Like they just stormed out the class. They were like, "I'm a grown man. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. This ain't your
Ooh-wee.
class." I'm like, "Oh Lord, I hope they don't kill this woman." I had to calm them out down myself. I was like, hey y'all, just chill. Let's just get
Just
this done."
calm down, you know.
But
I mean, I get that. I get it, man. I mean, I've never been a teacher or anything of that nature, but I have me personally have an enormous respect for any person, male or female, in that profession, because y'all, whew, y'all. First of all, y'all teaching our kids, and then on top of that, y'all give up so much of y'all time, y'all
oh
energy.
yeah,
Excuse me. And sometimes, some of the things y'all do is out of your own pocket. You
oh
know what I
yeah,
mean? So I would have immense respect for the teacher, the people, for men and women in that profession, because it takes a great deal of patience to be a
oh
teacher.
yeah,
Number one, and
it
also you
does.
have to have a love of kids and also a love of education to be a teacher. And sometimes that's a job that that's not reward. That's not rewarding all the time.
Not all the time. Yeah, because you got a good bit of teacher shortages because of the low of pay as well, especially in
Right.
certain states. I think certain states like Kansas. I think Kansas is one of those states where they literally had to cut back. They literally had to have school from Monday through Thursday, and they had to cut Fridays out completely. That's just how bad it is.
Wow.
But yeah, the state of South Carolina, they ain't going for that. They making sure teachers get at least a small increase so they can avoid that
Right.
problem. And they're just now talking about paying teachers more in the state of South Carolina because of the teacher shortage, and they're starting to supply more funds instead of funding for the private schools like they did for years. You know.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up, brother. That's what's up. That's what's up. So let's jump into this, man. Let's get into this interview, man. So the main crux of why we're here, why you and I are arrayed here tonight. So talk about your writing and stuff like that. So let's see, where does love of writing come from?
Ooh, yes. So it came from my childhood. So I always had a broad imagination when I was little. I'm gonna say since preschool. So I tried the talent of drawing, but it did not work out well. Eventually, especially once I got into the second grade, my great grandmother, rest her soul in heaven. She passed away when I was a teenager.
uh-huh.
Um, she helped me read and write. Um, I know my parents helped me read and write, and by the time I got to second grade, I was already proficient. So when
Right.
we had like free writing assignments, I used to have these characters in my head. Like one of them was this cartoon character, like a bunny. It was like a bunny with a football shaped head, like Hey Arnold. And I used to draw him, and
Oh man.
and he had a friend named Josh, and the bunny's name was Fuzz. And so I wrote like a small little short story when we did a free writing assignment.
Right.
And then I made up another character, which is one of my original characters to the series I'm writing, Peter Tucker. I came up with him since second grade, and I actually had a dream of him. It was like a thunderstorm, and it was like a wasteland with a looked like
Oh
a
man.
haunted mansion. And it was a boy with the red hat. He had like a serious look on his face. It was like a white boy with a red hat, and he had like a serious look on his face. And so I kind of developed that character with a Goku Ryu type character.
Oh, okay.
And then so And then from there, I started writing a little fanfic throughout middle school. I didn't really like publish them or anything, but I did had a lot of teachers tell me that I'm a great writer. And my eighth grade teacher at the time, his name was Mr. Sims. He saw my free writing, and a lot of them were just silly stories. I was just making fun of stuff. Like it was, I had like I was making up a stupid story about two guys fighting over. I forgot. It was like a loot or something in the island, and they like killed each other, and nobody got the loot.
Wow.
And then like satires about like I'm trying to remember them because it was such a long time ago. But I think it was like a dinosaur alien battle or something like that.
Oh man.
And me and my friends used to like make fun of certain things, and I used to write them. But I'll never forget my teacher was like, and it surprised me because he was like, your he was like, your writing is good enough to be published. I was like, really? These are just stories. I
Wow.
was just making fun of stuff. But I
So
didn't
you said
take my writing serious though until high
uh
school.
so you said you did fanfic. So what usually when I think of fan fiction, I usually think of someone writing something that's, an obvious to either anime or some other type of thing. So
Mhm.
what did you write about? What was your fan? What was the fan fiction that you put? What was the source material that you were writing about?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, so
Oh,
I wrote a fanfic based off Star Wars, but instead of using the actual characters, because a lot of fan fiction using the actual characters.
right.
For the Star Wars stories, I was making up these were made up characters, but and I used them like in a whole nother timeline, like years after Luke became like the master or something like that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So when you said you mentioned Goku, so I'm assuming I'm gonna assume that you're anime fan too.
Yes, for the most part. I've been so busy I haven't even been keeping up with anime recently. I'm more of the old school anime.
I get it. I mean, some of the classics never go away. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
Dragon Ball Z,
Oh yeah. That's a major
Cowboy
one.
Bebop.
Yeah, I haven't really got too much into Cowboy Bebop, but
That's
I
that.
looked at a little bit of it.
You got to, brother. It's where I'll me personally, I say it's wonderful. Now compared it to the live action one, I'd rather watch the anime. So just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually wrote a fan. I started a fan fiction based in like if you ever heard of the Gundam universe.
Yeah, I know Gundam. Yeah.
So
I'm
I
familiar
wrote
with
one. I started one, but I didn't finish it. I think I might get back jump back into that because I think people there are a lot of people that write fan fiction, and
it. Mhm.
it's like I've seen a lot of that stuff. Like I've seen somebody write something to in the Halo universe.
Mm.
Um I see actually lately I see somebody write something in the what's that? What Halo universe? I see somebody write something to Doom. Like, wait a minute, people
Huh.
write fan fiction on video games? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
People write fan fiction. I even when my sister, and this is crazy, my sister was reading off of one of those apps, I think Wetpad. People writing fanfics about their favorite celebrities.
Bro, I I see some of those on Wattpad, bro. Those stories are like are a lot of those folks are very, very good about what they write about, man.
Yeah, yeah. I've
So I
been
mean,
hearing.
go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, you fine, you fine.
So so you've been doing this, you've been writing since a kid, since a child, since a kid.
Yes.
So from you started from fan fiction, then the people said your folks said that your writing was very, very good and you should be published.
Hmm.
What was your thought process? What was your thought process or after hearing that? Did you want to move in that direction, or were you kind of like still wanted to kind of hold your craft?
Well, I just wanted to hold my craft. I didn't really thought of publishing back then. I thought it was like a major thing, and I felt like I wasn't ready at the time.
Right.
So And besides that, I was still into sports. Like I wanted to get back into sports at the time. I, it's a long story with that. Just make a short story of it. My dad kicked me off the football team when I was in sixth grade, and then by the time I got to middle school, I got rusty. But I wanted to get back in the game, so I focused less on my writing and more on my athletics. But my grades wouldn't allow it. So
I get that part, brother. I
yeah,
do.
so but I
Talented as an athlete, but horrible. Grades are just horrible.
yeah, the grades were terrible back then. I didn't take I didn't take school serious at all back then. I'm just gonna be honest.
As most kids, most of us as kids don't.
Yeah,
We think we're there to just play off and just we can try to we thinking that we have time to get everything done and I'm the perfect example of this. You know, played around ninth grade, played around 10th grade, came to 11th and 12th grade. When I got to 12th grade, I was in danger of not graduating. And
mm,
my dad was furious. He
yeah,
said,
sound like my dad.
if you don't pass 12th grade, I'm gonna beat your. I'm like, oh.
Mm,
So I had no choice, man. I had to put had to put my head to the grindstone and get it done. Thank
yeah,
with with the grace of God and also a lot of perseverance and also a lot of effort on my part.
right.
I was able to walk across that stage and get that diploma.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
I mean, because you've been doing it, but you've been writing. You've been writing you've been writing just as probably long as I've been writing. We both been writing since we were kids, and we
mm,
both looked at it as kind of like a hobby at first.
yeah. It
Um,
was. Mhm.
when so for you, when did it become serious?
I became serious in 12th grade when I gave up sports completely. When
Ah,
yeah, when because I tried to get my athletic, my sports career back. Um, I was playing football. I gave up basketball because I didn't like the coaching there. The coaching strategy was horrible. I gave up baseball because I was very rusty in it, and I had dreams of getting injured, and I had a dream of having a bad year. I did not want that to be my reality. So I quit baseball. Football was all that I had left. When I
wow.
played football, the coaches showed a lot of favoritism. I didn't get any playing time, and I was supposed to be wide receiver, but the coaches already knew who they wanted. So
Yeah,
so I was like, you know what? I'm about to be a senior. You know, I failed the eighth grade, which caused me to be a 19-year-old senior.
right.
So I was 19 years old as a senior. I was like, I am not being 19 years old as a bench warmer in a high school team. So I quit.
Man.
So I quit completely, told cold turkey. The head coach was mad because I quit, but I'm like, I'm not getting any playing time, so it's no point of me being on this team, and I'm just gonna sit on the bench. I'm not warming the
Did,
bench for the starters.
did he try to appeal to your sense of responsibility and honor?
No, he like when I first quit, he just had that upsetting look on his face
Well, I mean,
as soon as the school year started.
I mean, what you want me to do? I'm going to be riding pine the whole year. I mean,
Exactly,
there's no upside for me. Ain't no scouts coming to look at me. So I mean, what's the problem? What's the problem? I don't
exactly.
see the. I mean, me personally, I don't see the issue with that. I mean, I think that what you did probably was probably more likely for the better, because I mean, it
Yeah.
put you in a better position to be more focused on other things.
Mhm.
So you never know what your life path is gonna be like until we actually walk it anyway. So I mean, you
Mhm.
quit football was probably for the better thing. You
Yep,
know,
it was. It was. Yeah,
was it that
because
was that a hard decision? Did you have to wrestle with yourself? Did you have to wrestle with that?
I wrestled for it for a while since like 10th, 11th grade. But then by the time I reached my senior year, I remember I had this dream. And I was sitting on the bench. and the sky like popped out, and I knew it was
Ooh.
God talking to me. He said, "You know what you got to do." So I was like, "You know what? I know what I need to do." So then the sky popped open again. It was a shape of this evil being. Yeah, we know as the devil.
Ooh.
And he said, "You might as well stay where you at." And
There,
so I woke up and I was like, "It's time for me to quit and take my writing career serious as well as my education."
there you go.
So I quit the football team. I turned in my helmet, my shoulder pads, um, and I think some of the upcoming boys from the rec league that made their way to high school was like, "Can I have your shorts?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, have at it." I was done.
There you go.
I walked out and I went to my English teacher and I showed him the writing that I had because I started my novel in high school, the first one that I've written, and I
Wow.
went ahead and finished it and self published it at 21.
Wow. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I like sometimes God shows us things, and
Hmm.
he says he puts us on the path that we're supposed to go, not the path that we want to go. Sometimes the path that we want to go seems like it's the better path, that it's the path that's going to get us to where we feel we need to be. But sometimes, just like the dream you got,
Hmm.
That was God showing you the better path,
Right.
the path that you should be going. And that's important for us to understand. Anybody that's out here that's listening to us or watching us, it's important to understand that when God shows you a path, it's a different path than the one that you want to walk. Because the
Hmm.
path that God shows you ain't gonna be the quick and easy path. Because the path you want to walk could be the quick and easy path to wherever you want to be, but the path
Hmm.
God wants you to walk is gonna be hills, valleys, mountains, barricades, all kind of stuff. You have to. I think that dream that you had was preparing you for that.
Yeah.
So who who do you look for? Who do you look to as your influences? I know some writers have influences. I know some writers do not. So
Mhm.
who do you have as far as influences? What writers do you look at as influences?
So I have a good bit. I'll just name a few. For my fiction writing, because I write in the genre of YA Afrofuturism. So the writer that really had me going, that gave me that desire, was George Lucas as well as Stan Lee. Um, I I enjoyed, like, my dad introduced me to Star Wars, and that was it.
Look, you
My
mentioned.
dad had a whole entire Marvel DC collection, and I used to like read through the comics, and I was just so fascinated by them.
Oh man, you know what? That now I see why we mesh like that now, because because little. I mean, a lot of people that know me know where my influences come from. Because my whole influences was comic book writers. I mean,
Hmm.
Stan Lee, Brian Michael Bendis, Neil Gaiman, Frank Miller. Um, gosh, I can name so many of them. Um,
Mm.
but was the Stan Lee was a tippy top the
Yeah.
top for me, because man, the way that he could weave those stories,
Hmm.
and then make the character, and then make and humanize the characters. You know,
Mm.
and for me that was, as a kid, as a seven like a 16, 17-year-old, that was a thing for me, for somebody to have a character that's human, that you could relate to, that you can personally relate to. That was it for me. George Lucas is you mentioned my the top two writers for me.
Mhm.
Um Now, you, are there any like other writers besides those two, or those are tippy top for you?
Those are the tip top, but I do have a few others. I'll say a couple others. I'll go down to pretty much on the level that I am because I also write poetry as well, and
Right.
I looked at the works of Langston Hughes, Harlem Renaissance. Um, Even what really inspired me to write poetry was when I listened to Lupe Fiasco, the Cool. You know, that thing there, man, that really opened my
Woo!
creativity. Like that man, he was real creative with his lyrics. So I was
Man,
like, man, that's I was like
that's
that.
like
That's
that's like that's like solid gold to me, brother.
yeah.
That's solid gold to me. I was introduced to him with Kick Push,
Yeah.
and then the box, and I like, you know what? Yeah, I'm hooked on this cat, right? I'm hooked on this dude right now. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
man.
I was
So
in 10th grade when that album came out. I was like, man.
really,
Hmm.
wow. So, man, I mean, it is, it's funny that we both that you mentioned you're being inspired by somebody like Lupe Fiasco because as a poet, for I think for me when I write poetry, I'm reminded of my influences are the same as yours. Um, Langston Hughes. Um, there's so many other poets that I listen, but that I listen to. There's poets like that are outside that are not mainstream. I mean, I listen to there's a
Yeah.
couple other guys that I know personally. Um, there's one cat, Marielle the Shinobi of Poetry, and there's
Hmm.
another cat called Spit Raw McGraw. I mean, these are cats that I listen to um,
Hmm.
on a regular. Um, man, it's funny that you mentioned music though. Now, do you
Yeah.
when you because you mentioned that you're inspired by like artists like Lupe Fiasco, um, does those influences bleed off into your writing?
Mm, when I listen to Lupe, because I I think when I first listened to the Cool, that's when I first started writing poetry. Because I was
Wow.
just inspired by not just the instrumental, but and the lyrics. It was just so poetic. He used so many poetic devices, and it just listening to it, it just helped me open a whole nother artistic, how can I say it, another artistic flow of myself. Because before poetry, I was just writing with the influence of Marvel, DC, Dragon Ball Z, all the mainstream stuff.
Right.
And then of course, later on in my latter career, I got influenced by once I got introduced to Afrofuturism, I was introduced to Octavia Butler, who became my additional influence, which
Wow.
her work is
That's what's up.
phenomenal. Yeah.
That's what's up,
So,
man. So no, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was just saying, yeah, Lupe Fiasco, he pretty much opened my between him and Langston Hughes. Those were my top two for poetry. um,
Wow.
and listening to other poets, just trying to think of others because I used to go to a good bit of spoken word events after high school. I was like 22 at the time. I used to go every Wednesday to I forgot what it was hosted by Al Black Mind Gravy in downtown Columbia at 5 Points. um, just going into that environment and just expressing myself, it just really opened doors for me.
Wow. Now did you besides being a listener, did you ever, muster the courage to kind of to step up to the mic?
Oh yeah, yeah. Every night I used to be on the mic
Oh
because
wow.
before I went to that venue, I used to recite my poems a lot at my old church.
Wow. That's what's up,
Yeah.
man.
So and then it came from there to going every Wednesday night performing there. And there were other venues I was gonna go to, but damn, just my personal life kind of interfered with it.
Of course. Of course. I like that you mentioned that you were influenced by so many things. I mean, we as writers, or actually we as human beings, we're influenced by a plethora of people and things, and those influences are the things that help push us or shape our journey, wherever that journey, wherever that road leads us to. I mean, and I love the fact that that you have those influences, the musical influence with Lupe Fiasco, also being influenced by um, by Stan Lee and George Lucas. Not to mention other people that you've been influenced by in your journey. It is
Mhm.
it's nice to know that and nice to hear that, because a lot of people will say, "Well, I'm influenced by this," and they'll kind of be plain Jane about it and
Yeah,
really not say anything. It's kind of like be plain Jane about it and not say
yeah,
much to it. But it's nice to hear that you're influenced by a great many people, and those influences, believe it or not, do bleed or do bleed on the page. Do bleed on the page.
right.
So now you mentioned something that was called Afrofuturism. What
Mhm.
is that?
So, in a nutshell, if you watch the movie Black Panther,
Right.
that is an example of Afrofuturism.
Really?
So, yep. So, Afrofuturism is basically picturing a future Africa or a future African diaspora. And it expresses pretty much the art, pretty much culture, art, and technology, as well as the science. So,
Wow.
Afrofuturism is basically an extension to the prior Black movements, um, even the contemporary Black movements,
Wow.
such as like the age of hip hop, which is mainly dealt with music. Um, Prior to that, the Black Arts Movement, Harlem Renaissance, so Afrofuturism is just that extension from those movements, but it focuses more on the future part of Africa through mainly dystopian societies.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
So it doesn't pull from any type of it's futuristic, but it doesn't pull from a utopian society. It pulls from more the dystopian society. And why is that?
Well, it's just basically showing like the consequences of the government's decision on how they treated pretty much not just I would say the alienation of blacks. It's just basically showing the alienation of African American blacks all over the world.
Okay, okay. Because I guess when you mentioned it, like I was up under the premise that it made it focused on maybe a utopian society, but when you said dystopian, and then you
Mhm.
mentioned the kind of the things that you just mentioned, that I can understand where that comes from. Now, because you mentioned dystopian, now are most Afrofuturism stories bleak in nature or in context?
Um, I won't say that it's bleak in nature. As far as it go with context, it mainly deals, like I said, and forgive me if I have a little brain freeze.
Are you good, bro? You good?
But it doesn't mainly deal with nature. When you think of it, mostly deals with what we call the post, mostly the post atomic, like a post atomic age, like a post nuclear war age, the age of survival. Like
Oh, so you kind of talk about maybe like a well, probably I won't probably not that far out. Not that far back, because I was gonna say Cold War era, but I mean that might be too far back to
yeah, it's too
pull
far
from.
back.
Okay.
It's basically talking about like a post nuclear war, like a World War III, post World War III type societies, or
Okay.
or what you call like a post apocalyptic society.
Okay, okay.
If you read Octavia Butler's Dawn, which I read bits and pieces of it, it's basically about because a lot of the works deals with this heroine being the survival, and Octavia Butler pretty much gives that distinction. Her and Nalo Hopkinson gives that distinction of the strong heroine that pretty much has to survive in a dystopian society. Like Dawn, it's about a woman who survives the post-apocalyptic society. She's like one of the last humans left, and it's like these aliens that take over, and she has to pretty much survive through that now.
Wow.
Parable of the Sower, the main character, what's her name? Her last name is Olamina. I can't think of. Oh yeah, Lauren Olamina. She's her family is like in this brick community. Brick community is like middle class. Her daddy's a preacher. Her family, she have her half brothers, and they're like making sure that they're good. And then outside of that, you have what you call the outsiders, or you know, gangs, mercenaries, and stuff, and people
Okay.
that's in the poor. Nobody can afford gasoline. Nobody can afford water. Nobody can afford bread. So people are eating off of what you call acorn bread, and it gets to the point where they start raiding the middle class. So like if you look in that society, if you look like you have it, you're gonna get beat up or killed. So and
Wow.
people walking in the highways. I mean, it's a bleak story. And then you have Brown Girl in the Ring, by Nalo Hopkinson. With that story, the girl, you have another heroine. I think her grandmother does voodoo. It's been a while since I read that book, but with that story, she's in a society in Toronto where the government completely abandoned the people, and the mobs end up taking over that society.
Good grief, man.
So that's just an example of Afrofuturism. I mean,
So
it's just basically that alien blacks being alienated, and it's just that what you call a regret, or pretty much a regret of what how government treats the low class society. And then
wow.
one more example, Samuel Delaney. His novel Babel 17. It's not a dystopian novel. It's more futuristic. It's like deep into the future. It kind of reminds you of a Star Trek type story.
Right.
But his story is just basically a woman looking. She has a crew that's looking for this language that pretty much threatens the universe, and they have to battle the enemy forces for it. So, like I said, it's all about the dystopia, and it's all about war and survival with these stories.
Jeez. I got a funny feeling that these type of books are probably going to be overly violent.
Yeah, trust me. I've read especially the Parable of the Sower, and the Parable of the Talents. Whew, yeah, it was cringe. It was cringe worthy when I read that. When I read it, it was good, but it was cringe worthy.
Because I mean, because the first thing when you mentioned dystopian and post nuclear conflict setting, the first thing that came to the first two things that came to mind was Fist of the North Star and Metro 2033. Those are the
Mm,
first two things that came to my mind.
mm,
So but I mean, but I guess if you take away like the characters that you assert, or you make those characters black characters, then
mm,
I give you pretty much that you have Afrofuturism, because
mm,
those are first two series that came to my mind, because I've been a fan of Fist of the North Star for quite a while, and I read the Metro 2033 books before I actually purchased the game.
mm,
So wanted to see there if there was any differences between the novel and the game, and they pretty much we all know the differences when you try to translate something translate one media to another media. There's going to be differences and omissions, but
mm.
those are the first two things that came to my mind. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, wow! And and when you mentioned that, I'm like, okay, well, Fist of the North Star was very grisly, so I'm thinking this might follow the same. This might follow the same formula. Now, what you now the thing what you write does it follow those parameters, or you or do you kind of do you tone down the grisly nature of it?
It kind of follows on the same lenient line of the Afrofuturism stories. Because
Okay.
one element I forgot to leave out, it's not only just pointing out like blacks being alienated, um, the whole dystopia. It also goes against what you call white masculinity, um, from
Ah,
from your sci-fi's like back in the 50s, 60s, 40s. You know, your early sci-fi where blacks are completely out, like the Jetsons. That's one example. It's like
ah,
where are the brothers and sisters at? You just have nothing but whites. It's like they're the only survivors. They're like the only future. So Afrofuturism challenges that. So
wow.
with my novel itself, you have a good bit of conflict in it. I'll say that it starts out with the utopia, and then it drastically becomes the dystopia after the villains take over that society.
Wow. So we're talking about starts off good, gradually, slowly, but surely becomes bad, and then it kind of graduates to worse.
Yeah, I must, I must say, then gradually, it like immediately gets to worse
Oh man, it's
because it's
so it
so as soon
so
as
it
they
jumps from
take
bad to
over,
worse, right?
it
Wow.
just goes from bad to worse, just like
Wow. So
that.
it starts from good, then it jumps to bad already, then it jumps from bad to wow. That
Yeah,
so it those types of extremes, huh?
yeah, it's that type of extreme. Once the power is gone, now the protagonist has to like find it in himself to get the pretty much get his kingdom back.
So basically,
And
you said this whole thing is based off the was it based the original Black Panther movie, not the second one, right? So the
talking
previous was
about
based on that, right?
talking about my novel, right?
Yeah. But no, not that, but I mean the whole that whole genre. So the
Oh
previous,
yeah. Mainly the
okay,
first one.
okay,
Um,
okay,
I'm gonna say the second one too, because still have those elements. But the dynamics are quite different between the first and
okay.
the second one.
Very much so. Very much so.
Mhm.
Very much so. I mean, I noticed those dynamics from off the jump. You know, one I see one where the character was more of the being for his people type thing, the nationalist
Mhm.
type thing. Then
Yeah.
as he grows and then he becomes more altruistic towards everybody else.
Mhm.
So I noticed that growth with T'Challa. Now the second one, I mean, I watched it, but I didn't break it. I didn't really break it down in that nature yet. I didn't haven't
Yeah.
broken it down in that nature just yet.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, I'm still
wow.
kind of. I broke it down just a little bit. Like I said, it's just a slight. It's like a slight dynamic change. Um, because T'Challa is the ruler. Like you say, starts out this black He started as the nationalist, and then he kind of assimilates. As soon as they starts the war with Thanos,
Right.
and
Because
then
more altruistic.
yeah, so he becomes altruistic, and then after that, you have the shift of the dynamic in which the queens are ruling now because the
Right.
king is gone. So now you have the queen, and it's like, and it's kind of like a women empowerment thing.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I
it's
did
mainly
notice
it's
that.
mainly an empowerment of the women. Although Afrofuturism do have that women empowerment type thing
Now,
for a good bit of the story. So it's like a mixture.
right.
Because Afrofuturism deals with, um, I would say, feminist, queer, as well as the strong black male. So we have like a mixture, I would say.
So the protagonist it could be any it could be a strong male lead character, or it could
Hmm.
be a strong female lead character.
Hmm.
So really, or it could be a character, a strong character that's queer. So
Hmm.
there's variety in that.
It's a variety within that genre.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might have to get on. I might have to get on that trade and ride that trade for a little bit just to see what it's about. I mean, had never heard of that genre till you mentioned it to me. But
Mhm.
that is since we're talking about that, you know, tell everybody a little bit about this book that you wrote.
Okay. So the book that I wrote is called Path of the Lion, Rising Kingdom Part 1, The Birthright. Uh, it is a it is the first novel within what I'm calling it the Path of the Chosen series. So
Ooh.
the book, the protagonist's name is Moses Azanwa. He is a 11-year-old prince, and he has his older brother, which is Ramses, who is 14. The story starts off with Moses being like 4 years old. This is when his kingdom is prominent. His father's ruling, his mother's the queen, and they're like, and I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but
Right, right, right.
but it's basically they prepare for war against this evil force called the Shadow League. The Shadow League invades. You have war going on, and then everything just shifts.
Wow.
I'm just gonna say everything shifts because the enemy ends up taking over the kingdom. I won't tell you how they took over it, but they end up taking it over. Fast forward 11, the Moses is 11, living in a village and hiding. So
Wow.
his nation is pretty much in a perilous time, and
Wow.
he has to
Okay.
find it in himself to get the birthright from his brother, because that's why the story is called the birthright, because the brothers have to battle for that birthright to challenge the Shadow Lord for the throne.
Wow. It has to be bad. Has to be bad if he's in hiding. I already get the sense that everything just went to hell in a handbasket. Wow.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you mentioned Moses and then Ramses. Now, I gotta ask you, I gotta ask you, were there any? I give Moses is a biblical character.
Hmm.
Um, we all everybody knows that Ramses was an Egypt was is an Egyptian. It is an Egyptian ruler. Are
Hmm.
there any? Are there biblical? Are there biblical influences there?
As a matter of fact, it was. My wife actually kind of. It's a long story, because like I said, when I published my first novel, my first novel is non-canon now. Back in
Right.
2011 and republished in 2016, the character was white, the Peter Tucker
Ah.
character. Um, my wife and my sister-in-law, who tragically got killed in 2019, they actually encouraged me to write a black character, and I was going to write a black character, but he was going to be on a whole nother series. But
Ah.
then I was like, you know what? I might go ahead and write in a black character. I was actually going to replace Peter Tucker with that character. But my sister, who knew that I had Peter Tucker for a long time, she threatened that she was gonna slap the crap out of me if I changed the character.
Wow.
But
She threatened
yeah,
violence. She's like, if you change it, I'm me and you go. We throw we. I'm running my fade, bro. You gonna have to give me my fade, dog. Don't change his character, or you gotta run. You gotta run them hands.
right. but I,
Wow.
but she wasn't the reason, though. but but she did actually say that, but that wasn't the reason. I had to just put that joke in there. But
Hey, look, I'm pretty sure it was probably one of the reasons.
it was one of those minor reasons. But yeah, one of the major reasons why I couldn't replace him, because that character had a significance in the story, and it wouldn't have felt right if I took him out and replaced him with the other character.
Right,
So
right,
instead, I went ahead and I was like, you know what? I kind of took the idea from Marvel. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put these two characters in two different worlds, not two different planets, but two different nations. Um,
right.
the Moses character would be in the African like nation, and Peter would be in the American European like nation. So,
Okay.
so I went ahead and got the idea. I didn't know what the name the Moses character yet. My wife actually helped me with the name, because we was looking at Prince of Egypt at my brother and sister in law's house in Charleston at the time. She was like, you know what, Peter and Moses and Ramses would be would be a good character for you. I was like, you know what? That does sound like some good characters. So I went ahead and ran with it. I got the Moses character as well as the Ramses, and I kind of referred them off the Bible. Because I thought of the Moses character like King Hezekiah, who was the youngest king of the southern kingdom of Judah in the Bible.
Oh, okay, got you.
And then Ramses, he was the brother. He well in in biblical stories, he was known as Moses' brother. There are other
Right,
stories
right,
where there are other stories where he's not, but that's a whole debate for something else. but but then you had other brethren in the Bible too, like Jacob and Esau,
right,
Ishmael and Isaac. So I pretty much had that dynamic between the Moses and Ramses character, which pretty much gave me the idea of the two battling for the birthright, the two being ears, princes of a pretty much the king who's empowered by this higher God, this higher being.
right. Wow. I love that, man. I mean, that's a great dynamic though. Albeit, one that kind of one that's gonna see one of them not live to see this, see it through. Um, what when you thought about this, did you have I know with writers, with us as writers, we
Mm.
before I think before pen hits before even pen hits the paper, we have this world crafted in our we have this world already crafted in our minds,
Hmm.
and we already know how these characters are going to maneuver through this world, and how they're going to navigate this world, and how they're going to project themselves in this world. Did you think about how your characters were going to maneuver and project themselves in the world?
Yeah, so it took me a while to pretty much maneuver everything because when I was first writing Path of the Lion, it wasn't as massive as it is now because it was actually going to be a little shorter, almost like a novella.
Right.
But when I went to Converse in the low residency program, my mentor at the time, Jeff Herbach, he helped me a whole lot. He's real good. He pretty much gave me what you call beat points. You have Act One,
Got
opening image, um, the beginning of the conflict, so forth, the introduction of the character, introduction of the worlds, the introduction of the conflict, and Act Two, get to the middle. You get like A story, B story, um, to the midpoint, to the villain coming back in, and then Act Three, where you have like Dark Night of the Soul, um, back to the fight or whatever, and then you have your resolution at the very end. So after he
okay.
like helped with those beat points and those long workshops we had at that Red Low residency, it really helped me. It really helped maneuver the entire plot and where the character was heading into within the story.
Okay.
And from there,
Got you.
I started getting more and more ideas, especially with the artist that I'm recently working with, Namdi. His name is Namdi Peters. The art cover inspired me to like make more minor changes, which is way different than my creative thesis that Converse pretty much put in the archives.
Wow.
So, and he did a phenomenal job. Matter of fact, I have the cover right here. Yeah, so he pretty much,
Oh, that is a
yeah,
nice cover.
yeah. So when
That's
he
a
drew
nice
the
cover.
Yeah, so when he drew the spear, I'm like, man, I should add that to my novel. I didn't even think about that.
Man, that's a nice cover. It wow. I think that usually when you have a cover, it usually will explain what the reader's gonna be, what the reader's gonna be getting into.
Hmm.
Wow, that's a nice cover, man. That is beautifully drawn.
Yeah.
That hand drawn.
No, actually it's digital.
You know what? It could have fooled me. It looked like hand drawn art to me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's a beautiful cover, man. I love it. You know,
Thank you, thank you.
And I guess for me as a person that now, because I, from when I write these stories, I mean, I craft this world that these characters are going to be in. Sometimes I think now, I guess the one question I ask you, how important is it for you as a writer to create a living, breathing world where these characters, where the for your characters to inherit? How important is it you for to create that living, breathing world?
It is very important. You literally have to imagine this world. Uh, it's to the point where your reader has to feel it. Like you have to have the right dynamics, the right wording, the right setting, the right description. You just have to have, you just have to paint it like a motion picture, and
Right,
you just have to put it into words. Because without that description, without that wording, without that art form, it's just going to be bland. It's going to be vague, and it's going to be hard to understand. Especially if you just throw in the history of that world without like adding the dynamic of the characters in it. Because I think I did that one time, and some of the writing that I was working on when I was first going into the low residency, and I didn't know, I was still trying to figure out this world, and
wow,
I didn't get tore up. Workshops, you got to take what you give. You got to take what they give you, and it's there, and it's to help you. And I took a whole lot that day. But you definitely have to, yeah, you definitely have to have not just an imaginative thought, but you just have to have that process in your mind. You have to have that description. Description is everything. And you have to use, and in most cases, you have to use those characters as the dynamic of the scriptures. Because
right,
because with the description that I had, especially in the first chapter, when I introduced the world, the character is like asking the master, "Who are all these people?" And the master goes on to, which the master name is Ngazi. He tells Moses each time. He tells Moses each clan, their color, what they represent, their power. He tells Moses the important history of the world. So it has more of a dynamic than just telling your reader up front, okay, this is the history. This is what happened in this time. This is what happened in that time. This is the clan for that. The reader have more of a feel to the dynamics within the conversation and more of that emotional feel. So that's definitely what you want to have within your writing.
wow. And I love that. I love that, man, because I think a lot of writers. I will say, I mean, I write fiction, so I know that it's very important for me to craft it, to craft this world for these characters to inherit. And I know it takes. I go out in most cases. I go to great lengths to do that. You know, I think about setting. I think about you know environment. You know how the characters maneuver in the environment, how they react to people in the environment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's and for as a writer, you can go crazy with this. You can there's so many things you can do with that. You can literally go crazy with that and create this world that's immersive for the reader,
Mm-hmm.
but also entertaining for the reader as well. You know, the reader can open the page and they can once they read the first page or maybe the first couple of pages, they're immediately immersed in the world, and they can see themselves as like a spectator in the world or like a cameraman moving the camera around as these events happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I like that you really take the time to do that, and to for a lot of writers that take their time to do that, that's just an extra to me. It's a not only is it an extra step, but it's also an extra thing that to let the readers know, because not only do I write, I read books too. But I think a lot of readers become writers anyway. So I
Yep.
read so I read a lot of fiction books and things of that nature, but also I read nonfiction too. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I want to do when I open the page, the first couple of pages, I want to be instantly pulled into that world to
Mm-hmm.
where I can see all this happening and going around in front of me. So like I'm the cameraman. I'm the camera. I'm being guided to these places and to these interactions and to be exposed to these and exposed to these larger than life characters. You know, because I know you probably would agree with me with this as well. I think the characters that we write about or that we write about or we create, we feel that they're larger than life
Right.
because we feel like and I know for me, a lot of my characters in a lot of my characters invoke a lot of personality traits that I have, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and they also invoke a lot of they also invoke a lot of the flaws that I have as a human being. And number one as a human being, but number two as a man.
Right.
Now, do you feel like when you write, do a lot of your personality bleeds into your main characters?
Yeah, each time I actually do feel like each of my characters have some type of my personality. I know Moses has that personality of, you know, when things go horrible, sometimes it's like he has that conflict within himself, that fear. But at the same time, he has that he's humble. He has a loving heart. He's very humble. And growing up, I always had a humble and loving spirit. My character Peter Tucker, he's the same way. He's very humble and very balanced. I'm balanced as a human being. I'm very calm in every situation. So though those two characters definitely have those certain parts of my personality.
Wow, I love that. I like that. And again, as writers, when I think a lot we put a lot of ourselves in the pages.
Mhm.
I think we do that inadvertently anyway. But now within that would and one thing I always ask because even though this is a fiction book, there's always a message
Mm.
in in what we as writers create. Um, what message should be what message should the reader pick up on as they go through the pages of this book and once they come to the conclusion of this book?
So one of the messages behind this novel is pretty much never give up. I would say, um, when horrible things go wrong, when things go bad, you just want to be encouraged, and you don't want to give up. And also another message I would say with this novel, especially for young children, because especially for young teens, preteens, because I know I wrote a matter of fact, somebody wrote a blog for me. Her name is Sylvia. She's also an educator. She wrote a blog based off of that as well. But for young teens, it's about pretty much coping through any type of trauma that you have, and you just have to cope. You just have to find ways to cope through it. Moses
Wow.
goes through a lot of trauma. He has to cope through it, and not only cope through it, but he had to find his destiny along with that. So it's a lot of pressure there.
Doubly that's doubly difficult, to as a as an 11-year-old to kind of deal with the level of trauma that he's dealing with, but also in the same instance in the same breath try to figure out what his destiny is and stand up and stand tall in that. That's a lot for a lot of hell a lot of kids hell a lot of adults to take on really honestly
Yeah,
if we're gonna be honest about it, because
yeah.
a lot of adults find it very difficult to deal with the traumas that we go through, the traumas
Mhm.
that we experience, and then the traumas that we still experience, and then to still try to still try to stand tall and walk upright in the path that we've been shown, the path that we chosen, or the path that God put in place before us. That's a lot to take on. That's a lot to put on. That's a lot to put on on narrow shoulders, but even more a fragile psyche.
Mm.
So that's a lot. I mean, but but you mentioned that in the end, in the end, I guess if it comes to fruition for that character, you know, I'm not gonna ask you is this. I'm not gonna ask you if these are happy endings for these characters because I don't want to spoil
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah,
Because I got a funny feel there not gonna be too many happy endings at this point.
yeah.
But now I think now the one thing I will ask because this book is it has the it has those grisly and you know moments into it. Those grisly moments. Did you find writing those moments difficult, or were they kind of easy to write about?
Well, in ways they were difficult because even some of those scenes, it was like I'm gonna say it was pretty dark. And it was kind of cringing a little bit. And then some of those scenes, it was like I just had to kind of go through it because I went through loss personally.
Right.
I lost a best friend in 2016 and my mentor at the same year. My best friend, he childhood friend, died in a head-on collision, and that was like a day before my spring break, my junior year. Um, my mentor died of a heart attack. That
Wow.
same like a couple months later. Then I
Gee.
dealt with loss. Well, my wife dealt with loss with my father-in-law. That was before we even got married. He died mysteriously. We still don't know to this day how he died. She just dropped him off because my wife is from Beaufort, South Carolina. So
Right.
she dropped her father off to the dialysis when she was still living in Beaufort with her parents. And after she dropped him off, a few hours later, her and her mother got the call that he was dead, and they embalmed him and everything. They didn't even get
Oh
a chance to
man.
say goodbye.
Oh man.
So
So sorry for y'all loss, man.
yeah,
That's gotta be that's hard.
and then my sister-in-law, she got shot and killed in 2019 by her cousin. She got shot in the head in his home. That was one of the most tragic losses that I've experienced in my life because she was like a sister that I never had. She's like the big sister I never had, and dealing with that loss was just as bad as dealing with my best friend's loss.
Ooh,
So putting that in the novel itself, it was just hard. Just pretty much writing the experiences of those tragic deaths in the novel. It was like I coped through. I managed to go through. I managed to go through it, but it was like healing in a way.
right.
It was
Uh,
basically healing.
right. I think writing those difficult scenes, especially when we've experienced that. I know for me, I know for me, for my first book, first and second book actually, um, there were some scenes in there that were emotionally gripping um, for me, and it was difficult to write through, um, and difficult and emotional for me because for me, I had to stop
Mm,
at a point because if I would have kept going, kept writing, I would have literally broke. Well, I actually did break down
mm,
and I cried because you know me being from a situation of um, being on both ends of domestic violence and stuff like that, but also
mm.
navigating my own personal mental health journey and things of that nature
Yeah.
um, were the two things that were the most difficult for me to write about.
Mm,
And it's it's hard. I think it's hard when you do that because, especially like when you say you're writing about scenes, these are scenes there that are the scenes that you write about are extremely violent in nature. And
mhm,
at the end of the scene, one person's left standing, one person's not standing,
mhm,
and then there's that that thing that attachment with loss that you have to kind of navigate through while you're writing this, and it's almost like everything that you all the losses that you've taken, all those come back as you're writing it is like it did it ever get to the point to where you just had to say you had to put your pen down or just stop typing?
Yeah, I remember one morning, and this was before I made the decision to divide my novel into two parts because it was gonna be humongous. Like the novel, when I put it in novel form, it added up to the document ended up with 400. The actual book format ended up in 600 something pages. But before I made that divide, I was right at the end of the story, and I'm not gonna spoil it because that's in part two.
Right.
but one of the but it was hard for me to write off the death of one of the characters. um,
Ooh.
it was really hard because I thought of my sister-in-law's death, and I thought of the last moment these characters would have an exchange before the final battle, and then his death come. So I was like breaking down in tears each time I thought of that scene. And then when I wrote the
Oh,
funeral scene, my wife literally had to tell me to stop writing, and because I was breaking down in tears. So my
right.
wife came in, she grabbed me, she was like, "Babe, uh,
Yeah.
get up, take a break." So I got up and I stepped off the laptop and I just calmed it down. I just stopped for probably like a few hours, and then until I found the strength to finish this scene off.
Right. I mean that. Yeah. Because I think that's what me too. I had to pull away from it. And say, we're not gonna do this. Not today.
Yeah,
Not
yeah, yeah,
tonight. And sometimes you do have to come back to them because because
yeah.
those that overflow of emotions makes it kind of difficult to write something. I
Mm,
know with me there was when I wrote the last part, the epilogue of my second book,
mm,
and the main character was talking to her father and explaining how she felt
mhm,
about him, about the situation, about all this stuff. It was hard for me to do that because it took me right back to when I lost my child. In
mm,
2015, I lost my kid to a police involved shooting,
mm.
and it took me back to that particular point, and I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be at this particular point,
Yeah.
but here we are.
Mm,
So what? So I guess I'm gonna have to now. I guess I'm gonna have to navigate these feelings and either write or pull away. So I
mm.
actually chose. I actually made the choice to write. I actually made the choice to write because at the time, for me at least, I felt like what I was writing at the time was relevant to my main one of my main characters, which is a female,
Right,
expressing herself to her
right,
father and
right.
stuff and things of that nature. I'm like, okay, yeah, we gonna get this done, but when I get this done, it's gonna be a big old boohoo session after that, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I got it done, and stepped away from it, pulled away from it, and for the better part of 15 minutes, I cried like a baby
Mm,
because
I can imagine.
for me that was a release. It was a release.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a big release for me because all those feelings that I had pent up inside and could let those out just felt like it's like somebody just automatically just pull it open press the button. And here come the floodgates. I'm like, okay, here it
Mm,
comes. Let me embrace it. Let me embrace it and allow this to happen.
mm,
And when it happened, I was like, 15 minutes later, took a deep breath.
mhm.
There were still those feelings there, so I still allowed those feelings to kind of just continue to wash over me because I wanted to make sure not to totally get all of it out, but to make sure that I acknowledged everything, you know.
Right.
And I think when you mentioned that all the things that you had experienced with loss and things of that nature, I'm pretty sure that was, you know, just as a visceral experience for you as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, it's man. The one thing I'm gonna say to everybody that's out here that's listening and watching, you when you read these books that we write, you know, not only myself and Mr. Brown here, but me and any other authors that I've interviewed or any other authors that you see on social media, things like that. You guys have to understand that there's a large emotional investment in process in that, because Mr. KT will tell you right now, we our emotions and our feelings pretty much bleed on the page,
Oh yeah, most definitely.
and if we don't do that for like we don't do it because for any type of effect or anything like that of that nature. We do it. We write those scenes and those stories because even with fiction, there's even with fiction, there's truth in it. There's truth in fiction, y'all. Just to let y'all know that fiction isn't always fiction. There's truth in fiction.
Mm,
The truth in the fiction is that pulling away the layers of the main characters and stuff like that to get to the number one, the message that the author put it forth. The
mm,
second thing is understanding where the author was emotionally at the time, and then when they wrote a specific scene or set of scenes. So I've always said that to people when someone asks me, do you write fiction? Yeah, I do write fiction, but there's truth in my fiction.
mm.
And people are like, how's there truth in a story that's not true? There's my truth. There's my truth in that story. You know, and like I said, your truth, because it's a young adult story. The truth in that it is the truth for someone who's a young adult who reads this lets them know, hey, look, no matter how things look, is to not give up, never give up, stay the course. Um, no matter how difficult it is, stay the course, stand tall, um, walk in the destiny that God has placed before you, and you know keep going no matter what. Keep going no matter what befalls you. And that's a great message for a lot for that's a wonderful message for kids and adults today. Cause I think the world that we live in currently, we need more positive messages like that, bro. We need more positive messages like that. And I think and I think to me personally, even though the message is displayed in a not so pleasant way, the message is still clear. It's just that people have to. I don't know if you're like me or not. I when I read books, I go through layers to find the message.
Mm.
I look beyond the story, beyond the character's motivations. I try to find the message as I read the story, or at least get the gist of the message. So there's a message in that in your book, man. I think a lot of kids, or I think a lot of young adults, young kids, hell, even adults would benefit from that because, like I
Mm.
said, as you agreed to the world we live in right now. Oof, gosh,
Oh yeah.
we need more of those positive messages. It doesn't matter the source of the positive message as long as it's a positive message. It can be a ugly. It can be in the form of something that's very ugly and very grisly, but as long as you pull the message out of it and you learn from it, I think that's the big thing from it, man. And me personally, as someone who's a reader and a writer as well, man, I have a lot of respect for you for taking that bold step to do that. Even though
Yeah.
it's in a even though it's in a even though it's in a not so pretty package,
Yeah.
the message is still there. The message is there.
Right. Right.
So there aren't too many people that would use that that type of form to kind of pull a positive message out to it. So I applaud you on that. It takes a bravery to do some stuff like that because most people would rather just put a whole positive message on it and make the whole thing positive the whole way. And, and people
You
not knowing that you have to experience negative to get the positive.
Yeah, it's not realistic, not
No,
believable,
nope. And
not
I
believable.
like that. I like that you put it in a way. I mean, even like that, even though the package isn't pretty,
Right, right.
there's still a message in there. As long as and I think people have to dig deep, but not I won't say dig deep, but they have to dig to find it. They have to dig to find it. And like I said, I applaud you for doing that, man, because
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
we we need that, man.
Oh
We
yeah,
really need these types of messages. Even
yeah, most
I mean,
definitely.
even the stuff I write, the first two books I wrote, they weren't pretty because they talk about domestic violence, but they also talk about mental health too, and the ugly parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
The parts of it that go beyond the surviving, they go beyond the healing and the therapy sessions and all this other stuff. There are ugly parts to that.
Right.
But everybody wants the pretty package.
Yeah, it's. I
I
say
don't
for myself, it's unrealistic.
see, if we agree on that. Unreal.
That's
How can
unrealistic.
how can you read something that's not real,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't relate to you?
Mm-hmm.
Or how can you read something that's not relatable to you? Or does it touch you here? I mean, if I read something and it doesn't touch me here, first of all, I mean, if it doesn't intrigue me here, it has to intrigue me here first, and then it has to touch me here. So it has to touch both parts of me for me to even say, okay, I can swing with that. I can dig that. I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think that reading, I don't know. I guess I'm just a weird person like that. I'd rather be touched, here and here with my heart and mind with a story, especially something if it's a good story,
Oh yeah,
you
I mean
know.
it's nothing. It's definitely not weird about that. I mean, yeah, as a reader, you just have to feel it out.
Yeah,
No matter how you feel it out, you just have. Because even me as a reader, I always like to read something that'll move me in the sense that I can pretty much relate to, like mentally. As I mean, as well as the heart as well. How you do it as well. I mean, like I said, the story just have to move you in some shape or form. It
oh
has
yeah,
to. I mean, even in a traditional critical reading response or any
yeah,
type of reader response, the reader has to fill out the story that relates to life. Period. Yeah,
that's it.
there's no such thing as a perfect harmony. It's just if I would read any story like that, I would just close the page immediately. Like this has no conflict. I don't see the point of this. This isn't real.
Yep, yep,
There's
and I'm with you
nothing.
on that.
It's nothing. It's not human.
There's nothing of substance there,
It's nothing of substance. Nothing of value.
right? And I want and I'm, if we're the same people, I want to have value. I want to take away value in what I read,
Hmm.
but I also want to add value. I also want to add value to what I write.
Right. Exactly.
And I love that approach that you take because again, you want to add value, but you want to add value to what you write because when
Hmm.
someone picks up the book and they go through those pages, they will see that value.
Right.
Whether they see it intrinsically or whether they see it, straight if they see it outwardly, they'll
Right.
see their value.
Right.
But yeah, I love it, man. I love it, man. And I've most definitely enjoyed talking with you tonight, man. But before I
Oh yeah.
let you go, man, before I let you go, I always
Mhm.
ask two questions of my guests, man. The first question is, and this could be this could be a Bible, this could be a Bible scripture or a quote. So
Mhm.
what is your favorite Bible scripture or quote and why?
Oh, that is a good question. Um. Well, You said Bible quote or scripture?
Bible scripture or your favorite quote.
Okay. I'm trying to think because I have many. But I'll just say one. I'll just say one of those. And it's just come to mind. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want.
Good word. I love that. So, so for that, why do you feel that's your favorite one?
Well, it's my favorite one right now because no matter what we go through in life, the Lord is always the Lord is always with you. He's your shepherd. He leads you, he guides you. You pray. When you pray, you always want to pray for his guidance, because we as human beings, terrestrials, can't do it on our own without that higher
We sure
power to
can.
guide us.
We sure
so
can.
so especially what I've recently been going through. I just and that's literally my prayer is just for God to guide me, like with my home, guide me with my guide me as I go to work every day, um, guide me as a family man, a husband, a father. Even in my writing, I ask for him to guide me because
Hey,
every writer's. It's a writer that says every writer have gets his writing from a higher power.
yeah,
The
true.
power I get is from him. He's the source. He's the one that gave me the vision of these worlds. Uh, so
Wow. I
so
love that.
that's
I love that, brother.
oh yeah.
I do. I love that one because like we all get our inspiration from somewhere, and that somewhere is always that higher source. And I love that. So the second question that I always ask my guests is, and this is kind of a the explanation is multi-part, but the question is quite simple.
Hmm.
So as we all know that there we that you know we all know this thing called a marathon, right? And
Hmm.
there to me that there are stages of it.
Hmm.
The first stage is when that starter's gun is fired and you're coming out your starting blocks and you're running and you're just now getting up to your pace.
Hmm.
And then you have the middle part, then you have the middle part of the marathon to where you are at your preferred pace and
Right.
you're going and you're going and you're going and
Hmm.
you're running, you're going strong.
Hmm.
And then you have the finish, which is the finish line is in sight and you see the finish line, but yet you're not slowing down. You're still going at that strong pace. Um, Now the question is this:
Hmm.
thinking about your experiences, your life experiences, um, from childhood up to this current moment.
Hmm.
Putting the release of your books and also your writing into that as well.
Hmm.
Where do you see what part of your marathon are you in currently?
It's a good question. I'm gonna say I am almost. Well, I won't say I'm almost at the finish line. I have a whole lot to go. I
Right.
think I may be close to the middle. I
Okay.
want to say I'm close to the middle.
That's
So I
what's up.
might be in like the second or third lap.
There you go. I like that. And the funny thing about it is every person that I've asked that they've always mentioned the middle. There's only maybe one or two people that said beginning or towards the end. And the person that said they're toward the end, it wasn't because they're at the end of their life or anything like that. They were saying they were at the end because they were saying the end of one aspect of their meeting. The part of them, like the musician that there was finishing up that race, and now they're beginning another race. So
Mm.
I because when he said the end, I'm like, "Whoa, huh, dude, you 23 years old? What do you mean?" And did he explain it to me? I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, okay, I got you, I got you, I got you."
that's a good perspective, though.
Yeah, because he was like, "Nah, man. I mean, I'm at the end of this. He said I'm at the end of this marathon with music as far as music is concerned. So I'm
Mm.
I'm just running to the finish line to this so I can begin so I can start something else." I'm like, oh,
Mm.
okay, cool. That's what's up. I like that. And
Hmm.
it's interesting that I when I ask that question, it's all it is not to say it's always the same answer, but I love to hear the perspectives.
Yeah.
Um, when they say what part of the end, I love to hear those perspectives because
Hmm.
it let sometimes it lets you know where they are, where they are as far as their life is concerned. I mean, just like you said, you know you have you have you have a wife, a kid, and you're making sure that what you do, everything that you do is not only for you, but more importantly for them,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, your child is the one that will inherit that's going to inherit um, the legacy that you leave behind,
Hmm.
um, and also the things that you leave behind for that child, and then that child will be able to pass on that to their children, and then that child is passed, and then that child, then their children's children, and so forth and
Hmm.
so forth, and then that legacy just continues and continues and continues you know until somebody just says, "Oh, well, I'm not going to pick up the mantle, and I don't want to do that,"
Yeah.
which is which to me is like I love the fact of legacy. Um, I want to be able to leave things. I'm 50 years old, man. I want to be able to leave something. My goal is to leave something behind for my granddaughter.
Mm.
My
Right.
goal is to leave something behind, at least leave something behind for my kids, but
Right.
more importantly, leave something behind for my granddaughter because
Hmm.
at the end of she's the one that's gonna pick. She's the one that's real. She's the one that's really gonna pick. Really gonna be one to pick up the baton and decide if she wants
Right.
to run with it or not.
Right. Right.
So I love that, man. I mean, and it's a good thing is, and I'm happy that with this book, as well as anything else that you're endeavoring to do, that you're leaving a legacy behind, not only for yourself, but also for your child, for your children, and for their children's children.
Right.
Big, much respect to you, man. Much respect to you, brother. Much respect to
Yeah, I
you.
appreciate it. Appreciate it.
So, one last thing I want you to do before we sign off here, man. Want you to tell everybody who you are, where they can find your book at, and where they can find your social media. So the floor is yours. Did you hear me, brother? Oh, you froze for a second. So okay, I start.
Yeah, the connection froze. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So I want to give you this chance to tell everybody who you are, where they can find your social media, and also the name of your book. The floor is yours.
All right. So, once again, my name is KT Brown. My novel is called Path of the Lion Rising Kingdom, Part 1 The Birthright. It is on sale online on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble online store. Um, you can follow me on Facebook. You can pretty much follow my fan page or pretty much my fan page, KT Brown, or you can follow me on my personal page, KT Brown, on Facebook. Um, Also, you can follow me on Instagram, KT, believe it, KT underscore Brown 077. If you just see me holding my two babies with my wife, that's me. Um, um, Also, I do have a TikTok as well. It's under Lion Footprints. And then you can follow my YouTube page, which um, I haven't uploaded videos recently, but still follow it. You never know when I'll give updates on that page.
Hey, I said now's a good time to do some uploads, man.
Oh yeah,
I would say I mean do a reading. Yeah, it could be the one thing that I've learned as a writer. So I've learned to try to do, and I haven't done this for a while, but I think I'm going to get back into it. Is doing readings of my currently published stuff, just so people can know, say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I write. This is what I've written. Hope you guys can enjoy this and stuff like that. I actually might start back doing. I won't say I ain't might. I actually will start back doing that. Start back doing that because I
yeah,
think it's really important to kind of connect with the people who read your work, So that way
Yeah,
they can keep abreast of who you are.
yeah. I was thinking of doing more readings on YouTube. Uh, I'm just gonna definitely work around my schedule and
Right.
try to fight my sleep off when I get home because I literally crash when I get home, especially on Fridays. I'm like,
I know, man. I know. I mean, I appreciate you taking the time to, to talk with me, man. Because I know what the moment you got on, you're like, damn, I want to do. I want to crash or or not.
yeah, yeah, be
I
fighting
was,
it. I fight it a
I
whole lot.
was. Trust me, I was in the same. I was in the same mode earlier. Um,
Mhm.
I got off work at 5, and I'm like, you know what? I I was I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go and exercise, but I would. But I did anyway, and I'm kind of glad I
Yeah,
did because that gave me the energy boost that I needed to get this done.
right.
So, man, first, brother, I appreciate you coming on
Oh
tonight,
yeah.
man, and just taking the time out of your Friday evening, and tell your beautiful wife, and your children, thank you very much for allowing me to steal you for a while. I
Mhm.
appreciate it. um,
Yeah.
man, but we're most definitely going to get in touch, man, because I most definitely want to do a follow up interview with you. Um, and I got some
I'm
I
looking
got some
forward
other
to it.
things coming down the pike, bro, that I want to kind of cue you in on. So we'll most definitely be in touch.
Okay, yeah, most definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yeah,
Yes,
hopefully by
sir.
then part two will be out.
Yeah, I mean, I got some other things outside of books that
Oh, I got you. I got you.
I most definitely want you to be a part of.
Okay, yeah,
So
most definitely.
most definitely, I will go most definitely kind of cue you in and clue you in on what I got going on. So man, so keep your messenger open, and I'll shoot you the details and see what you think about it.
Okay, yeah, most definitely. I'll be on the lookout for it.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, introducing to some, well, to all, my brother KT Brown. You got a check out his book Path of the Lion, The Birthright, available currently right now on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Please go check him out on all his various social media outlets, y'all. And do me this one favor. When you if you do pick up the book, if you do pick up the book and you read it, do be this one solid. As a writer myself, you you guys don't understand the value of reviews.
Mm,
I have to, and I have to. I don't want to overstate this, but I feel I have to. The value reviews are like currency to an author.
mm, it is.
Reviews help us as writers to improve our craft, to bring you better content, to bring you better stories, to bring you more robust stories. So please, if you do pick up the book and you do read it, please do me a solid by leaving a review. It doesn't matter if it's a positive review, it doesn't matter if it's a negative review, it doesn't even matter if it's an indifferent review.
Hopefully,
Just
it
leave
won't be a negative.
right. But the way I see it, positive, negative, indifferent, it's a review, but it helps
Yeah.
us as writers to
Oh
improve.
yeah.
So, but
Most definitely.
positive. So I'll say this, I'm in agreement with KT. Positive reviews are preferred, but negative and indifferent reviews are just as welcome because
Yep.
negative reviews help us as writers to improve. And as a writer, that's the one thing we want to do is improve. We want to bring you better stories, better content, you know, more robust and deeper worlds for you as a reader to dive into, more detailed and fleshed out characters. So please do me that solid. Pick up the book, leave a review, and you will thank me later. You will thank me later. Because trust me, those reviews are very important. They're like currency to us as writers. So,
Indeed.
with that being said, man, I want to thank my brother KT Brown for being here on the Authors Alley tonight, man. Again, tell your beautiful wife that I appreciate you. I appreciate her allowing me to steal you for a bit. Tell your children I appreciate them for allowing me to steal you for a little bit, man. And you know,
Yeah.
we're most definitely gonna keep in touch, brother. But we're most definitely gonna keep in touch, man. So thank you so very much for coming on tonight. I appreciate you, bro, man. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Oh man. All love, man. All love. Be casa su casa.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
you are welcome
gotcha.
anytime. You are no longer a guest now. Now you can walk in if you want something to drink. The refrigerator, you know where the fridge is at. You just go get it.
Gotcha.
Man, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
Yep. Appreciate you as well.
Yes, sir. That's gonna end this episode of the Author's Alley tonight, man. Make sure you tune in tomorrow afternoon for critical conversations. There will LSU will not have a live show that tomorrow, so there will be a pre-recorded show tomorrow. That show should be ready and available here. I'll make sure that show is ready and available for everybody to kind of take a look at on Saturday at 5 p.m. Also, make sure you tune in on Mondays and Thursdays for My Life Has Destiny podcast with Quint Jones and Coco Fenton. Also on Tuesdays with LSG with Girl Chat Tuesday, and also this coming Wednesday, I will be popping on. I will have a subject that I'm going to talk about, but I'm not going to tell you what it is going to be about until probably Monday. So you guys will have to hold on to your seats for that. And probably Friday I may come on and talk about and may have a continuation of that same subject. But you gotta wait. But you gotta wait till Monday for me to bring that out to you guys. But once again, thank you all for tuning into the Author's Alley, man. Uh, Once again, this is Frederick Beatty with my special guest, Mr. KT Brown. We love you guys to life, but there's nothing you can do about that. And the three things I always like to say before, as I always sign off, man. Number one, love on each other. Two, be good to each other. Last but most definitely not least, we all know that it's a very, very crazy world out here, y'all. So
Mhm.
please, 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 please take care of each other, y'all. Take care of each other. Take care of each other. Love y'all to life. Good again.